Hey, what's going on, everyone? Joe Menza here, and we're going to do another watercolor painting. You'll see here I am pre-spraying my palette down. My color's all dried. Ordinarily, I keep them in like a Tupperware type container to keep them semi-moist, but I left them out and they all dried out. So you can hit them before you start painting with a spray bottle. I think it's a good tip. And I'm just clipping the board down with some clips. I try to keep as little tack down as possible so there's no white spots. This is 10 by 14 arches, 100% cotton paper. So we're going to give it our usual 3 coats of water. I'm dragging in a little colors that are on my board. So, but no big deal. It's fine. I'm hitting it now with some yellow ochre just to give it a little background. And I thought today I'd do some more windmills. I did a windmill painting for another demo. And thought I'd do some more here, maybe do some windmills on the lake. What I'm doing now is I'm taking some water on the end of the brush and just breaking up some of this yellow ochre that I've already added onto the paper just to create areas of lightness. You'll notice when you use 100% cotton paper that it has a different effect, as 25% cotton paper has a way of sitting, paint and water sitting on top, whereas cotton paper, the absorbency is very, very different. It tends to soak things in, spread things out a little bit more. So it's a very different paper to work with. And as you start using different papers, you'll notice each one of them has almost their own characteristics, their own personalities. And really you're kind of overcoming, in a way, the different peculiarities of the paper, or the different, again, personalities of the paper. So in this case here, we're just letting it dry just a hair bit. There's a lot of water on here. I'm going to take some Ultramarine Blue, a little bit of Payne's Gray, and just a smidgen of white gouache, and start creating a cloud pattern here on the paper. Larger at the top, smaller as they get down to the bottom, and we're going to leave some light area in the center of the paper. And we're going to come in now with a little bit more Payne's Gray, a little bit more ultramarine on the same brush. And you'll notice here I am using the medium Hake. This is smaller paper, so you use smaller paper, you can use a medium Hake. You'll get a different cloud pattern. Clouds are going to be a little bit smaller. Added a little bit of alizarin crimson, just a slight tint of red. That'll dry back quite a bit. Just to create a little bit of a layering effect. And again, on top with a little bit more Payne's Gray. What we're doing is we're layering. We're just creating a little bit of dimension here to the clouds. And sometimes we end up with, it dries pretty flat. It dries a lot flatter than we had hoped. If that happens, that's fine. You know, it's trial and error to some degree. As I go along on my journey, you never stop learning. You do things and you're happy with some things in a painting and other things you're not so happy with. And that's what the challenge is when you go to the next painting, is I'm going to do this one perfect. It's the constant chasing of the carrot on the stick. I'm taking some lemon yellow, cad yellow, either one, I forget what's on my palette, and probably a little yellow ochre mixed with a little ultramarine blue. And just giving it a little spray. I want to keep it open, and I want these colors to really run together. Just a little bit of a spray. Now I know water is going to be down below here, so I've got a lot of color on here now. I'm going to just take a little back off, just with a spray bottle and a brush with just water on it. And look, you can break that up if you're doing water and you just overdid it. You can break that up and you can sort of get back to the lighter color of the paper. You're not going to fully get rid of the stain, but it will break that down. And once you start putting in reflections and things, you'll be buying it as a water source. Taking a little burnt umber here and just adding that on top for a little bit of our land, a little bit of our shoreline. Adding a little bit of ultramarine blue and some Payne's Gray just to vary up a little bit of a shoreline. You'll notice when you use 100% cotton paper, you almost need to use brighter colors. They tend to dry back, but they dry back toward the darker side. Whereas with 25% cotton paper, I feel like the color stays a little bit more true to the original, or maybe more brighter. But there's something about when it absorbs into that cotton, it takes away some of the brightness of the color. So you want to use a little more purity in colors, more cleaner colors when you're using cotton paper. Just my opinion. I'm just taking the card and I'm scraping in a little bit of a shoreline here. A lot of this will be gone, so I'm exaggerating it quite a bit, but I'm using my little card and I'm scraping in. Cotton paper, when you scrape, again, very different from using the 25% cotton Fabriano. It works, but I feel like it works a little bit better on the Fabriano paper. Now we're just going to come in with some little more ultramarine. We're going to dab in just a bit more darker color to make those tips of those rocky areas just pop a little bit more. Just dabbing in, just feeling it as I go. A couple of sweeps across just to kind of blend it. And I just did a quick dry there. Now I'm taking this is probably a 2-inch, maybe 1.5-inch flat brush. You don't see me using this too often, but for like man-made objects, stuff where you really want that straight edge, you can get a straight edge out of your Hake, but really a flat brush is going to give you the straightest edge possible. And it's not bad to have a couple of these brushes, to have maybe a 1-inch, a 1/2-inch, maybe 1.5 inches. This way, when you do different size objects, you can have a variety to choose from. So really, your Hake, your rigger, and a flat brush. We want to limit this down to how many brushes you're carrying around. You don't need jars and jars of brushes. So I'm taking a little bit of burnt umber here, some different things on the brush. You'll notice carry a little less paint, a little less water on a flat brush. What we're doing, we're just suggesting shapes here. We're not going to paint all the details. We just want to suggest. And the eye will fill in the rest. And that's what will cause viewers, in my opinion, to stare at a painting longer. You'll notice most people look at your painting less than a minute after you put in an hour's worth of work into it, or a half hour's worth of work. People will look at it, but sometimes people keep looking at it. You know, you've mesmerized them, you got them, you hooked them. And that's what artists over the centuries have been shooting for, is just to try to dazzle someone, where you look at a picture and it's a mystery, it's a puzzle your brain's trying to put together. Like, really, it's processing. What am I looking at? Using the end of this flat brush, there's other brushes that would be better. You can use a round just to put a top on the windmill building structure. And I did that just purely out of laziness. I'll admit it. I could have went and got a round, but why? Scratching in a few little things on the building, maybe a doorway. I'm doing this just totally out of my imagination, what I think a windmill looks like. Actually, I think it should be a little fatter at the bottom. Should be a little wider at the bottom, but I'm sure if I searched the globe, I could find windmills that look like this. You'll notice it's floating in midair right now, and we'll attach that to the ground. Going to take the very flat edge of the brush, and I'm going to put in the blades, as I called them in my last video. However, one of my newer subscribers has informed me that they are actually called sails, something I did not know, and something you learn new every day. So thank you for that bit of info. So just dabbing in, we're going to do side view of the windmill's sails. And look at that already. Your mind has already figured out, just from our shape making, that that's a windmill. And we're going to now put in another one, smaller one, a little bit further away maybe. Slightly further away, or it could be smaller. I mean, but I think they're just a little further away than the middle one. They say you shouldn't do odd numbers, but we'll go ahead and do 3 of these. Maybe we'll put in a little shed or little building just to create a 4th item. Same thing with food. They say don't put 3 things on a plate. You put like 3 vegetables or like 3 of the exact same thing. You're never supposed to do odd numbers. Again, just scratching in a few things, random things. Is it a window? Is it a door? Just something to create a little characteristics. Now you'll notice it's this flat brush. You can see the hairs do separate. You got to keep them a little damp, just like the Hake. I've had flat brushes that have separations in them, which is interesting because a lot of people say, well, I have problems taming the Hake, but if you've ever used a big flat brush, you'll notice that the bristles separate on there as well. Again, we're putting more sails in here on the slightly more distant windmills. And I think what we'll do is we'll put a cross. We'll put a cross in here, scratch out the blade into the building to suggest that there's another blade there. I think that works out pretty nicely. So little things you come up with on the fly, and then you sort of pat yourself on the back. Hey, that was a pretty good idea. Worked out well. Although I've probably seen someone do something like that, so I can't take full credit. So we have our 3 windmills sort of floating in midair. We'll anchor them to the ground. Just giving them a spritz to break up little blobs of water. Sometimes things look too solid. And now we're going to take our medium Hake brush and we're just going to dab in some little grassy foliage. Probably covered up the little green on the sides too much, but that's okay. And that sound means my laundry is done. Multitasking, folks. Laundry and painting. Could be a new YouTube channel. A little more green here. I'll just try to get back into the painting. We're just going to dab in a little green grass of some sort. Should be a little brighter though, because that'll dry back and it'll look just kind of blah. I'm going to scratch in a little shed. This could be a little house. I don't really know. I mean, I haven't really been around big windmills, so I don't know if maybe the proportions are correct here. I would imagine. I mean, we have windmills not too far from my house, but they're not the nice looking ones. They're just like wind farm windmills. Little spritz just to kind of keep things damp here. Now I'm taking the Hake and I'm just chopping in what's going to be the reflections of these windmills into the water. Similar colors as the buildings. They don't have to be perfect because we want them to look a little like they're shimmering. Not the right word, shimmering. We're going to give them a little spritz. If it runs down, the better, the more exciting. Just scratch this in. I don't know why. I can scratch rocks all day long, but scratching in buildings, I don't know. It's never been not had a good success with it, but this one looks okay. Just dabbing in a little bit more color, taking advantage of that wet water that's cascading down a little bit. If we had a very still body of water, we would paint him exactly. I don't know. I think when you have a mirror image of the exact same thing, it kind of looks a little too perfect, if that's a thing. So I think if you make a suggestion, not only that, but it's easier if you suggest the color in the water. Again, it gives that mind the little dazzle of thinking, okay, there's something reflecting there, that's water. Your mind is trying to figure it out like a puzzle. It keeps that viewer watching. You'll notice these windmills in the house now, they're anchored to the ground pretty well. And I'm just dabbing in. Now I'm going darker. Just a little bit darker. Light to dark we're doing. Okay. Moving right along. Just drying my brush on a towel there. And I'm looking for some red. I want to put a little, this is Pyrrole Red from Daniel Smith that I had on a palette already. Just going to do a little red roof here just to introduce some color into this. It might be a little too bright, too red. We can temper that down a little bit though. Maybe we'll add a little, just a touch of red into the windmills to kind of bring a little bit of balance. I'm going to add a little darker brown in here to the roof though, just to create a little shading and kind of temper that down so it's not so bright. It's not really the focal point. And the center windmill is probably more the focal point, and your eyes will kind of look over and make your way over to the house to the right. But if you did get to the house on the right, you might look to the left to the windmills and follow the shoreline. I'm just dabbing in a little, doing a little fence here. I tried scratching in it initially, but it's not showing as much as I would like. You can scratch them, you can paint them. I have to use a little bit of a darker color here. Hard to see, but I'm just kind of putting a little reflection of the fence into the water. Sort of a little bit of a dry brush. And we'll put another fence on the other side of the windmill, but I think I'll try something different. I'll use a little gouache, and we'll just put in a little fence over there. I'm taking that same Pyrrole Red that was on my little flat brush. This is the 1/4-inch flat brush. Give it a little spray and let it run. Again, so we don't have to paint a building into a still water. We just suggest the colors there so we know there's a little bit of a reflection. And if it's not enough, you can just do it again, give it another little spray and let it run. And it'll do what you need it to do. You can kind of take a little bit of a towel or brush, finger, if you don't want to touch the paint. I'm not sure Pyrrole Red is what's in that one. That's Daniel Smith. I usually use Cadmium, and those are all non-toxic. Here's now, you take the dry, mostly dry Hake brush, the thirsty Hake, as Ron Ranson called it, and run it through the wet paint and create a ripple in the water. And now you're starting to get, your eye is telling you, look, there's something there. It's not exactly what's on top of it. It's water. Your mind will process that. Seeing that red? Just enough that you know it's reflecting. The water is almost like the same picture above, only blurred. Just going to touch in the blades a little bit. I think those would be reflecting, no? Those would show up in the water to some degree. I don't know, that's not really necessary, but I think it works. I think it works. It's the fun about trying a lot of different subjects and seeing what works, what doesn't. I'll use my paper towel, my finger, just to kind of blend things. I've heard of people that just use their fingers only. It's kind of interesting. a little detail work. Dabbing in just a little hint of red. There's a little faded red paint maybe in the Windmills, and it'll tie it over to that red that's in the house, you see? Just warm that up a little bit. Just, I don't know, it's what I think. Just maybe do a little doorway, just a little in reverse with the round brush. It's probably the most brushes I've used in a video, maybe. Or you could have 4 brushes. You could have a 1-inch flat, a large Hake, medium Hake, and a rigger brush. Keep it down so it's minimal fussing, but if you need it as a tool to go to, then you have it. And a lot of our members in our Ron Ranson group already use round brushes anyways. A lot of them are coming in and just getting in on the Hake. A couple little windows, a little doorway, a little shadow under the roof there, just to add a little dimension to it. Those little details really sell it. Sometimes I'll just go in and just sporadically hit a few little things of paint, just a little dry brushing in the water. Who knows what that is? Reflecting. Maybe there's some stuff floating by. Just little areas of interest. And now we're just going to come in with a little white gouache and just highlight a few little things. Just highlight a few little points. Just to catch a little maybe sunlight. Just to accent. Don't have to do this, but I think it just creates a little bit of a, just makes it pop a little bit. So like on the top of that house, just across the little fence, and then we'll put in a fence just with white to the right of it. See, so quickly, boom boom. Always have a little tube of white on hand. Look at how that pops out. See, we could have did that to the left and not even worried about scratching it in. Again, just accenting, highlighting. Just where I think it needs it. I don't want to overdo it. Maybe just glint off of a few little rocks. Maybe touch a few little areas and add a couple rocks. Just little minor details, nothing you have to go too crazy over. All adds to the final subject. Now these little details you can come back to later, but like while it's still wet, the white will blend in nicely. And we're getting very close to the end here now. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I did enjoy painting it for you. I had posted on my last video, I'm going to try Etsy. I had been doing eBay for a while, and it did good for me, and all of a sudden it kind of came to a standstill. And I thought I'd give Etsy a try. I know a lot of people use Etsy. It's a very nice format. And after I do, I'm going to put this one on. I'm going to try this one out on Etsy. I've got a few over there now. A lot of painters that I think are really good are over there, and they've got some really nice shops set up. Again, just the little minor details. This is the number 3 rigger brush. Sometimes it's good to stop and then come back later. See, I'm just dry brushing in some little accents. A little darker, see, it makes the stuff above it pop. Just a little dry brush into the water areas. I like my paintings just a little grungier. Okay. So that, I think, looks pretty good. We're just going to pen in a couple of little birds. Just get a little bit of life into the picture here. Birds flying away from the sails. And let's get a look at it after it dries. This is a funky looking mat I've got here because I don't have a 10 by 14 mat. And we're just zooming in and looking at some of the details. It's fully dry now. And I think we got some nice reflective work going on down below. Skies look pretty nice. Nice and windy for the windmills. And just for the big finale, here it is in like a frame, a computer program frame. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out my new Etsy shop and some of the links if you're on a computer. Check out some of the links that I have on there, and please subscribe. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.